Baltimore Oriole. Bobolink. Rose-breasted grosbeak. A black-billed cuckoo. Grace, I just saw a black-billed cuckoo.
My name's Muriel, foolish old man.
I know your name is Muriel. That's what I called you.
You called me Grace. Grace was your first wife.
I called you Muriel. You're just hard of hearing and won't admit it. Grace. Grace. That's what I said.
There, you said it.
What?
Grace. You called me Grace.
Silly old woman. You call me Harry, but I call you Grace.
Can't you hear yourself?
What?
I said, can't you hear yourself?
Of course I can hear myself. It's you that can't hear. I say you call me Harry, your second husband, and sometimes George, your first.
I never did. You're just saying that because you call me Grace, and once in a while, Mary.
You just don't hear.
What's my name?
Silly question. Muriel. You're Muriel. Grace was my first wife. Mary was way long ago.
Mary was before Grace.
No, she wasn't.
She was.
I should know who was my first wife. Damn it, woman.
That's safe. Just call me woman. We won't get confused. It's not very flattering, but it's better than being called the names of your other wives. My name's Muriel. Your name's Harry.
Did you hear? You called me Harry. Pot calling the kettle black.
You got me confused, that's all. You always could mix me up. Back then when we were going to Europe.
We've never been to Europe. That was Harry.
You and I went to Europe.
We did not. Grace and I went to Europe on our honeymoon. That's when I had money, before women had taken it all.
I've been to Europe with you.
You and Harry went to Europe.
I went to Europe with George, too.
Yes, well, I'm Herbert.
We never been to Europe?
Not together.
I think we have. You've forgotten.
I've got a perfectly good memory.
You can't even remember my name. You and I were in Venice together. You're ashamed to remember because of the scandalous good times we had. You loved me then.
I didn't love you when we were in Venice having a scandalous good time with whichever one it was. George or Harry, which was it?
It was you.
I've never been to Venice in my life.
Yesterday you said you'd never been to Chicago, and I proved you wrong on that. Your second daughter by your first wife died there. We went to the funeral.
Grace?
The daughter's name?
No, Grace's girl.
Grace wasn't your first wife. Mary was.
Were you there? I tell you, one was enough. Two was plenty. I don't know what got into me to try it a third time.
You were sick, and you were too tight to hire a nurse, so you married me.
I got well. Why didn't I kick you out? Now don't cry. You know I didn't mean it. You were always crying. Cried buckets at our son's wedding. Took on something awful.
We didn't have any children. And I don't cry. That was Mary. I'm Muriel.
It's no wonder I'm confused. Which I'm not, but you all the time saying Grace, Mary, Muriel.
I'm just trying to straighten you out.
What difference does it make? I answer when you call me Bernie.
I never called you Bernie. I maybe once or twice called you Harry. But that was when I woke up sudden like and didn't know where I was. But I never knew a Bernie.
Bernie?
Never heard of him.
He'd be pleased to hear that.
Who was he?
You were carrying on with him when I met you.
I was married to Harry when you met me.
And carrying on with Bernie. But he cleared out.
That must have been Grace.
You were carrying on with?
No! Grace must have been carrying on with Bernie.
Grace wasn't married before. I was her first.
Not married. Carrying on.
She was married to Harry and carrying on with Bernie.
You said she wasn't married before.
You were. You were.
What day of the week is it?
What's that got to do with it?
You can't remember anything anymore. Senile old man. Bernie Walters.
That's him.
Who?
Bernie Walters.
I never heard of him.
You just said his name.
You've been saying it here for an hour. I just repeated it.
You said Bernie Walters.
I said I never heard of him. And besides, I wasn't married to Harry when I met you. It was George. If I'd been married to Harry, I wouldn't have looked at you. Fine, strapping man. May he rest in peace. Oh, what he did in Venice.
You see, it was Harry in Venice.
Of course it was Harry in Venice.
You said it was me.
You? You wouldn't have it in you to do a thing like that.
What? A thing like what?
Don't be jealous of a dead man. I've done my best to forget him, George, like I promised when I married you.
I'm Herbert.
Do you keep repeating it so you won't forget who you are?
You called me George just now.
A hearing aid's a cheap thing.
See here. Grace.
I'm Muriel.
You talk about me. What about you? Muriel. I'm Muriel.
Cuckoo.
Where? I didn't call you Grace. Grace was soft and gentle and kind.
Why'd you leave her then?
I didn't. She died.
Mary died, your first wife. You got sick of Grace and left her and married me.
Left Grace for you?
Yes, you silly old man.
All wrong. Grace was my darling.
She drove you crazy.
My first love.
Mary.
Mary drove me crazy.
She was your first love. You've told me about it often enough. The two of you young colts prancing around in the nude.
Mary?
Yes.
I never saw Mary naked. That was her trouble. Cold woman.
That was Grace.
Grace I saw naked. Oh, how naked. There was never anyone nakeder.
You can only be naked. You can't be more or less naked.
You didn't know Grace.
Mary, I did know Grace.
Naked?
Keep a civil tongue in your head.
I never saw you naked.
No, and not likely to. Would be the point. You couldn't do anything about it.
Oh, that's what you think.
You married me at 70, and you were through then, except for dreaming.
You're lying. We had some good goes together, down by the beach.
You and I were never near a beach, and you were never near me in that way.
Old women forget. Forget the joys of the flesh. Why is that?
I don't forget Bernie.
Who?
Bernie Walters.
Never heard of him.
My second husband. I was married to him when Harry came along. But then Harry left and you came along a long time after. Platonic marriage. That's what we've had, you and I, George. But it's all right.
Platonic under the willow tree that June?
What willow tree?
Oh, I've been good to you, Mary, for all your carping and your falling off in your old age, because I remember that willow tree. Muriel never knew about it. We were wicked.
If I thought you knew what you were talking about, I'd get mad. But I know you're just babbling. Babbling Bernie. That's you. Herbert used to say, I don't know how you can listen to him babble.
I'm Herbert.
If it makes you feel more secure, go on. Keep reminding yourself.
You called me Bernie.
Oh, sure. And you've never been to Chicago.
I have so. I went there when my daughter died.
Well, I'm glad you admit it.
Why shouldn't I admit it? It's so. You just try to confuse me. Bernie, Harry, George, Grace, Mary.
You started a long time ago slipping. Only then you were more honest about it. Very touching. When we went to Florida, you gave me the tickets and said, Grace, my mind is slipping. take care of the tickets.
Your name's Muriel,
Yes, yes, Lovey. My name's Muriel.
but you referred to yourself as Grace.
Oh, very likely. Very likely.
You said I gave you the tickets to Florida and said, Grace, my mind's slipping.
Well, it was.
I've never been to Florida.
Oh, well, let's not go into it. The Ponzi suit?
I never owned a Ponzi suit.
You said it was the same suit you wore when you married Helen. And we had a long discussion about how ironic it was that you were wearing the same suit to run away with me.
Who's Helen?
You were married to her, silly.
I was running away to Florida with you. I was so old, my mind was slipping, and I couldn't remember the tickets.
Lovey, you're running a lot of things that happened at different times together now. Maybe you should just sit quietly for a while, Harry, till you get straightened out.
My name is Herbert.
That's right. We'll start from there. You're Herbert, and I'm Grace.
You're Muriel.
That's right. Now, let's just leave it at that now, or you won't sleep tonight.
I always sleep.
A fortune for sleeping pills.
I never had one in my life.
And you've never been to Chicago either, I suppose.
Never. Why should I have gone to Chicago?
Only because our daughter died there and we went to the funeral.
We had no children together.
Oh, all right. What about the willow tree that June?
Oh, the willow tree.
Yes, that's when we conceived Ralph.
Who's Ralph?
Your stepson. Good God.
I conceived my stepson under the willow tree?
I'd prefer it if we just remained quiet for a while. You can't follow a train of thought for more than a moment. And it's very tiring trying to jump back and forth with you. Just close your eyes and rest. Are your eyes hurting you?
No.
That medicine must be very good then.
What medicine?
You see, that's what I mean.
I never had any medicine for my eyes.
Yes, all right, all right. Let's not argue, George.
I'm Harry.
Yes, yes, all right. We'll just sit here and try to doze a little and think of happier days.
Venice.
Yes, oh yes. You were so gallant, if slightly shocking.
The beach.
The willow tree.
You prancing around naked. Oh, lovely. Lovely.
Yes, lovely.